Good evening. Good evening and welcome to the District 2 Budget Town Hall. We're joined tonight by County Executive Stuart Pittman and Councilmember Allison Pickard. We're going to get started in just a second, but first let me introduce myself. I'm Chris Trumbauer. I'm the Budget Officer for Arundel County. I want to run through how tonight's program is going to go very briefly. We're going to begin with a welcome by the County Executive, and then Councilmember Pickard will give opening remarks. And then County Executive Pittman will run through a brief budget presentation, and then we'll get to the main event, which is hearing from you. So we'll do public comments, and we'll have that facilitated by members of our constituent services and community engagement team. And then we'll have closing remarks from the council member and then County Executive Pittman. So with that, we're going to start it off with County Executive Stuart Pittman.
Thank you, Chris. I won't say much at the beginning because I'm going to be talking a bit during the slide presentation, and then I'm going to listen and take notes. And then at the end, the councilwoman and I will both respond to some of what we've heard. Probably not every single comment, but look forward to this. I miss doing it in person. This is the 6th of 7. And so for each district, I get to look at all the capital projects that are going on and all the good work, and then brace myself for what you all are going to say about all the things that we should be doing that we haven't done yet. But we do listen. We not only listen, but when we're doing our meetings with all of our departments, we look back at these notes. We keep track of everything that everybody is saying. And if you look back through the last couple of years, you'll note that things that have been brought up in these sessions really do get prioritized. So I want to mention that we have some staff here, and they're here to listen, take notes as well, to jump on things that they can do right away, or potentially put things into their budget requests for their departments. But we have, from Congressman Sarbanes' office, we have Bridget Smith, who's here listening on behalf of the Congressman. Thank you for joining us, Bridget. And then my staff, we have our Chief Administrative Officer, Matt Power, our Chief of Staff, Dr. Kay Bodges-DeBrown, our Deputy CAO for Land Use. I'm going to start calling them czar. Our Land Use czar, Lori Rhodes, our Health and Human Services czar, Pam Jordan, our Director of Public Works, Chris Phipps, our Rec and Parks Director, Rick Anthony, our Workforce Development Director, Kirkland Murray, our Economic Development Corporation CEO, Ben Burge, and Aging and Disabilities, Carissa Gowan. From Planning and Zoning, we have Lynn Miller, and from your libraries, we have Skip Ald. And that's a big group. They're here because they're interested, not because they have to. So thank you all for joining us. And I will now turn it over to your councilwoman, Allison Pickard, who will open things up for us.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate this opportunity so early in the budget process to really reach out to constituents to hear what's on their minds about budget priorities. As Mr. Pittman said, I'm Allison Pickard, the County Council Member for District 2, which is Severn, Millersville, and Glen Burnie. And I want to thank folks for participating tonight. I'm really eager to hear what folks have to say. I know from my conversations that constituents in our area have budget priorities of investing in public safety, investing in our rec and parks, investing in education, including keeping our school construction on track. There are specific projects that I have met with constituents and community groups about that I wanted to highlight that I will be advocating for and following through the process. One is the renovation project of the skate park at Sawmill Creek. I had a high school student meet with me this summer, which was really fun. And we've gotten so far positive response from the county administration. So I'm really hoping we can see that through to that completion next year. We also have Rotary Park, which is a pocket park in the heart of the Glen Burnie Town Center that we have a public-private partnership in the works to do some renovations there. We have the intersection at Wade's Grant in Millersville, Old Mill and Oakwood Road, where the residents there are really looking for a traffic circle, and we've had multiple meetings about, and we will be following that through to hopefully completion at some point. And then the residents in District 2 are extremely eager to see the Old Mill School master plan. We should see lots of groundbreakings this spring, including Old Mill High School, hopefully in the April-May timeframe. So I will be championing a lot of that. But I'm also in continuous discussions with our youth sports groups. So they know I'm committed to working with them to ensure we have increased fields and recreation space, including modernizing some operations within rec and parks. I'm making my rounds currently with lots of different leaders within the county and constantly advocating with the county executive and his entire team. I am really looking forward to this budget process this year. We've had, I think, 2 very successful budget cycles so far, and we've worked well together to accomplish some pretty cool things in some extraordinary times. This year is going to also prove to be complicated. COVID-19 has presented unique challenges, but I'm committed to working together to produce a solid budget plan for the county. So I want to thank everybody for participating. I look forward to hearing not only from the county executive tonight, but most importantly, all of you. And just so you know, I am here, but also my legislative assistant is participating, Ms. Kristen Etzel, to make sure that we don't miss a single thing tonight. So please, I look forward to hearing from everybody. So I'll give it back to you, Mr. Pittman, or whoever is going next.
I think we're gonna get Chris to lead us through the slide presentation with just some background information before we jump in.
Great, thank you, Mr. County Exec. And as he stated, I'll go through the first couple slides and turn it back over to Mr. Pittman. But right now you're looking at our budget timeline. So you can see where we are at the end of January, beginning of February right now. And one of the important things to take home here is budget for us actually starts back in September. So pretty much right after we finish the current year budget, we start on the next year's budget with our capital budget. That takes a while to put together, and we have to get our departmental submissions. And we are just about finishing up and ready to submit our requests for programs to the Planning Advisory Board, which will happen on February 12th. So that's next week. So the other thing that starts around now is the departments have submitted their preliminary operating budget requests, and the budget office is reviewing those now. But as you'll see from the timeline, we don't really make decisions on those until later in March and April. And so what we want everyone to understand is that the county executive wanted to have these public meetings early in the process, so there's still time to hear from the public and you can help influence decisions. So there's nothing that's a done deal yet. Everything is still in play, and that's why these are so important. But we will submit a county executive proposed budget on April 30th this year, and the county council has 60 days to deliberate that, and will hopefully pass a budget by June 15th as required in the charter, and then the fiscal year begins on July 1st. So we'll go to the next slide. And this is where our general fund revenue comes from. You're looking at the current year, which is fiscal year 21. That's $1.7 billion with a B. And you can see that there's a couple bars there on the top that are much larger than the others. So the two primary sources of income that we get year over year is the property taxes, and that's about $775 million. And then the local income tax, which is about $589 million. So that's the lion's share of our county revenue. And to the right of each revenue source, you'll see a little triangle. The good news for us this year is that the triangles next to the top two are green and pointed upwards, which means that it's an increase from the previous year. And that is a little bit surprising, considering that we revised our revenue forecast down last year when COVID's impact was becoming clear. But the good news was that the federal stimulus, the CARES Act, and other actions that Congress took did help insulate us from that. So those assistance programs, they helped a lot of families, they helped a lot of businesses, and they also helped shore up our revenue sources too. It's important to realize that those are temporary assistance programs, so we still are concerned about the long-term economic forecast, but FY21, the current year, is shaping up to be not as bad as we had feared last spring. The next one down is recordation and transfer tax. This is where when you sell or refinance a house, there's some fees you pay. So right now we're modeling that as about 95 million, but the real estate market is still pretty hot. And if it stays hot through the remainder of this fiscal year, we'll probably be able to revise that upward, which is pretty good. The rest of the sources there are smaller, but there are things like the local sales tax and the state shared revenue, which is mostly casino and gaming dollars, and then licensing and permits, things like what you would pay when you put in for a county permit, and also like your rec and park fees. So a lot of these things are down year over year, which is unusual, but that's due to the COVID impact on our economy. So if you go to the next one, this is the other side of the book. This is expenditures. This is how we spend our money. And the thing that jumps out here is that the biggest bar is our friends at the Board of Education. So they get about $857 million in this year's budget. And then going down, we have public safety is the next one. This is police, fire, detention, and those agencies. And then our general kind of core government agencies are after that, followed by our human services, land use. Debt service is largely the interest that we pay on our bonds, and that's what finances our capital program, all the things that the county builds. And then you have our component units at the bottom, community college, library, and the judiciary. So we'll go to the next one for a little bit more detail on our Board of Education funding. So we give them direct funding this year of $750 million, but then there's other things that aren't technically part of the board's allocation, but that go to fund the school system in one way or another. So that's debt service on their bonds for their capital projects, all the schools that are under construction. And then also our school health officers and our school safety personnel like police, school resource officers, and our crossing guards. So if you add all that up, that's where the $857 million number comes from. And as you can see on the box on the right, that's 51%. So more than half of our budget, operating budget, does go to make sure that our schools have the resources they need to teach our 80,000 students in the county. So with that, I will turn it back over to the county executive, who will walk through some budget highlights.
Thanks, Chris. And I love your background, by the way. I'm sure you did all that beautiful art yourself. So I'm going to just go through a few of the categories and tell you some things that we've been spending your hard-earned tax money on, starting with public safety. And I think it's no secret that we've increased our investment in fire and police in particular. We've increased our numbers, but also this last year, we improved pay for both fire and police with negotiated pay packages. The idea being that they were well below the regional average. And in order to recruit the best and the brightest and be able to have the kind of morale that we want to have in our departments and the service and treat them the way they should be treated, we wanted to at least pay them what our neighbors in Central Maryland are paying. And we were able to do that this year with their contract. So that was a big step forward. We've got a federal SAFER grant to help us hire additional firefighters. And in our first year, we were closer to 700 than 800 in our number of sworn police officers. And there had been positions, but they'd never been filled. And we were able to get closer to 800. We're not quite there. I'm trying to get to the level that the national accrediting bodies recommend for jurisdiction with our population, and we've been growing. So that's been major investment of county dollars. Next slide. Education has been my other big priority, and I think your Councilwoman Pickard's priority as well, and most of the council, and I think most of our residents. And we were able in our first year to give the school district a pretty good budget that reduced class sizes by hiring additional teachers and made real progress in teacher pay as well. This last year was a little leaner because of the projections of of declining revenue as a result of COVID. So we were able to keep up, though, with our growing population. 96 new classroom teachers, both for a new high school that was going to be opening and for just to keep up, to keep class sizes from getting larger. And then special ed was a high priority for us. We had major needs and hired 76 additional special ed positions. And in behavioral health also, major issues that have been neglected for many years. So a dozen more in behavioral health. So next slide. On the environment, I include parks in that because that's such an important part of how our residents experience our natural environment. We've increased our funding for park renovation by $3 million this last year. Development is another aspect of the environment, in my view, and so we've created a thing that will be rolled out in the next 2 years to allow residents. It's called Land Use Navigator, so that when a developer applies for permits, it's transparent, it's accessible to the public, and people can follow the process, whether they're supporting the project or not supporting the project. Just community engagement on that front. And then we're looking very carefully at the kinds of development that actually benefit the county fiscally and the kinds of development that cost us fiscally, so that we make sure that taxpayers are not covering the costs of the development. So impact fees are being looked at, and the fiscal impact of development is being studied. Next slide. Infrastructure, you may remember 2 years ago, we did a thing called the Fund for Permanent Public Improvements because we had well over $2 billion in infrastructure backlogs as a result of not keeping up with the costs of our growth. And that came from a 0.1% increase in your income tax. And the projects that are being funded by that include 2 fire stations. So we have a public safety aspect of that. Improvements on Route 2 and Route 3 corridors. State highways should be paying for those. They're state roads, but as you know, they've had plans to improve failed intersections and address some of the problems and add lanes where they're needed. And they've not been willing to take the necessary steps to move forward. So by having some funds for those 2 corridors to dangle as a carrot, we finally got SHA to the table and about to sign an MOU to work together. We'll have some town halls on those corridors. You'll be looking at Route 2 and make sure that we address those with that fund. And then we've opened our new police training center, and we are keeping up on primarily Glen Burnie, this district's school construction. Most of it is in this district with the Old Mill schools underway. Next slide. And then in your district, of course, we have here the Old Mill schools. I'm not going to go through all of these. You can get all of this. You can go to aacounty.org/yourbudget, and you can look at the slides, and you can also start digging. We'll talk about that in a minute. At ways to look at you can look at the project, the progress on every one of these projects. Rec and parks are the ones that are of most interest to most residents and me as well. And I know to your councilwoman, she's not kidding when she tells you that she is advocating on your behalf to me. We work really well together, but I can tell you behind the scenes that Councilwoman Pickard is an advocate, and she is constantly bringing us projects and letting us know when projects are moving more slowly than they should. And rec and parks projects are top of the list that I'm hearing about. Next slide. So the revenues to be able to pay for all these things are something that our team looks at projections based on how the economy is doing, and then we get at the end of the fiscal year, we find out how much revenue actually came in and see what we have to work with to be able to meet needs. And last year we were pretty conservative in our projections. We projected that we were going to miss out on about 40 million in revenue as a result of COVID. Some people thought that we should have cut our budget much further and were therefore unwilling to support the budget. As it turned out, we were conservative, and you'll see at the end of the year, the fund balance, we will have some funds left over, which is the intent. That means that we did a good job and have something to either do one-time expenditures or help us get into our next fiscal year in good condition. The incremental recurring revenue is the part of it that is the most the big question every year. So in a good year, we have additional revenue, not from raising anybody's tax rates, just from people making more money or new development that is taxed, or the value of property going up according to the assessors, the state assessors, and its additional revenue. And this year we're projecting for our FY22 budget in the range of 60 to 80 million, which is a pretty good year, not what we would consider a bad COVID year. Longer term is much more uncertain, so we don't know where we'll a lot depends on federal stimulus and things that are outside our control. Next slide. And then with this additional recurring revenue, we have non-discretionary expenses that we must pay, including debt service of about 10 million, increase benefits to our employees that increase in cost, and pay packages that we negotiate with our public servants. And then in addition to that are the things that we're talking about tonight, the things that you would like to see us do that we're not doing. Each of our departments comes in with supplemental requests to provide better services than we're providing now. And so those can be pay packages, Board of Ed funding. There's large requests this year from the Board of Ed, community college, during our hiring freeze. The list goes on, and I will tell you that most of those requests do not get funded, but we go through them and we fund the things that we think have the most promise for improving services. Next slide. So our property tax rates compared to other counties are worth keeping track of. Some say we all compete with one another. I don't see it quite like that, but we do want to be on the low end, and we're proud that we're on the low end. We're the 7th lowest of 24 counties on our property tax rate at 93.4 cents per $100 of assessed value. We were over $1 at one point in Anne Arundel County, and that number has come down. And then on the income tax side, we are at 2.81%, which is the 4th lowest in the state. State maximum is 3.2%. All of Central Maryland, other than us, is at that level. So we're closer to the rural counties that have lower infrastructure and service needs, and we're proud of that. Next slide. The impact of COVID on the economy. I've talked about this a lot, and I think you all know this, everybody knows this, that it's the lower wage workers, the bottom quarter of our wage earners are actually 8 times more likely to have lost their jobs in this recession. That's the purple line in the lower right corner of this slide, and can compare that to the previous recessions, last 3 recessions, and that was not the case. So this is very different in that folks at the top of the income scale have done pretty well for the most part. The stock market's done well, and it's the frontline workers that go to work every day and make less money that have been hurt the most. Next slide. There is, once again this year in the General Assembly, a proposal that would allow counties, proposal supported by the Maryland Association of Counties, bipartisan group, that would allow counties to stagger their income tax rate so that the highest income people pay slightly higher than the lowest income people. And that's moving through the process right now. I support that, especially in given what we've seen in this economy with the increase in disparities. It would not be a huge, in fact, we believe that we could do this if they do it the way we want. Folks making $500,000 or more would have a very slight increase in their rate on their money above that $500,000. And that's 1.4% of our residents. And we could actually cut taxes on the other 98.6% if we can be given this authority to tax income progressively. Next slide. And then I just want to remind people of some ways that they can interact with county government when they see things that need to get done. See Click Fix or 311 can be accessed online. This is the homepage of the website. You can see where the arrow is, or you can just dial 311. And next slide. It's well used. It's a fairly new program, so the numbers have been growing as people have been learning that they can report things to the county. and 19,000 cases in 2020. And you can see we keep track of them. We keep track of the departments that are resolving these cases, and everybody in county government is under pressure to deliver when it comes to resolving these complaints in these cases. Next slide. And then we have this new tool called Open Arundel, and it's there's a whole, I talked about this during the campaign, the need for performance metrics in every department and everything we do, so we know whether we're succeeding, so we know whether we should fund things. You can click into these links here. You can look at every department and see how they're doing on the metrics that they monitor, and it's a lot of fun. You can learn a lot about your community and your county going through this new website. It's what we use in making our decisions, and I hope it's what you'll use in your advocacy. Next slide. And then we have an online budget tool. Again, this year, it doesn't let you do everything that you would actually do in building a budget, but it does let you add and subtract and look at ways to create the revenue to pay for the things that you would like. So I encourage you to use that as well. Next slide. That's the last one. I'm glad you're here, and I look forward to hearing everything that you have to say, and we'll be taking notes. So I guess I'm passing it on to your community engagement and constituent well, it depends on where you live in the district, but Layla Jones.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pittman. Good evening, everyone. And so now we are at the part of the show where you have your opportunity to tell your elected officials where you feel money should be spent in your community. So to streamline this whole process, at the bottom of your screen, you will notice a raise hand function. You will click on that, and that will place you in a queue. And once you get to the top of the list, I will call your name. You will be asked to unmute, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak. We ask that you please be respectful of that time so that there's plenty of opportunities for others to speak as well. And in the interest of time, Mr. Pittman and Councilwoman Pickard will be making their comments afterwards so that we can have as many people speak as possible. So without further ado, we are going to call on our first speaker. Mr. Burney, you have permission to speak.
Thank you, ma'am. I just want to say I admire Councilwoman Pickard's efforts on behalf of the county, as well as our county executive, Stuart Pittman. Dovetailing on COVID, mental health and physical health are both very important. And if you're going to have a healthy community, the ultimate gain is a healthy economy as well. I have great extensive background affiliated with the U.S. military around Fort Meade as well as NSA. And I know the military values recreation highly, both physical benefit and mental. And I'm recommending for probably no more than $1,000, a very small kayak and canoe launch from Weinberg Park onto Rock Creek. It would be very simple for casual kayakers, stand-up paddle boaters, and kayak anglers or canoeists. It would take very little to create a drop-off area for kayaks among some more grass parking spaces. Porta potty sure would be great too. And that's the Weinberg County Park. Secondly, to create a small access kayak launch onto Selby Bay from the South River Fallen Park. Again, that'd be for canoes and kayaks. It would give sheltered access, meaning no access to big waves on the bay. Great for new paddlers on the Selby Bay and Ramsey Lake. And again, it'd be cheap and easy, probably $1,000. So there's virtually nothing that would have to be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Burney. Next, we have Ms. Donna.
Good evening. My name is Donna Hilton. I'm a longtime resident of District 2. I've also been a volunteer at Anne Arundel County Animal Care and Control for over 8 years, and I'm the treasurer and one of the founders of the nonprofit started by the shelter volunteers to help the animals. Thank you both, Mr. Pittman and Ms. Pickard, for coming to visit the shelter after last year's budget hearings. And thank you for the new cage doors for the dog kennels and the new staff position that was added so there was someone to coordinate the rescue of 1,000+ animals a year, as well as oversee the shelters, volunteers, and fosters. That said, I wouldn't be here if there weren't still critical needs. Number one being a staff veterinarian. A 2018 state law that sets minimal care standards for public animal shelters requires that a veterinarian supervise the medical care of all animals at a shelter. Without a vet on staff, our county does not appear to be meeting that standard. There is no veterinarian to examine incoming animals for signs of cruelty or abuse, treat them, and testify on their behalf if their owners are prosecuted. In contrast, Baltimore County, which is about the same size as our shelter, has 4 vets on staff right now. In conjunction with the staff veterinarian, the shelter requires additional funding for medication and testing supplies. Our nonprofit spent over $60,000 for a vet care last year and another $12,000 for medication and tests. But a public sector animal shelter should not have to rely on a small nonprofit partner to fund something as basic to its mission as vet care. It is not sustainable. Nonprofits are finite, only lasting as long as someone is willing and able to raise the funds and do the work necessary to keep it going. I'm running out of time, I see, so thank you for listening. I hope you will give the shelter the funds to hire a veterinarian and increase its medication budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Donna. Next, we have Mr. Brian Holtzlander.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Council Executive Pittman and Councilwoman Pickard. First, just want to acknowledge everyone, what they're going through with the pandemic and how excited we are to partner with the health department. With the professional firefighters, but to partner with the health department and getting some of the vaccines out and hopefully getting us all back to normal a little bit sooner. Through the pandemic, it's been our privilege and our honor to serve everyone, but it's been a tough time for everyone, and including our department. Our paramedics are depleted, our fire equipment and apparatus is depleted, and Chief Wolford's budget proposal this year takes a big step into training and hiring the next generation of paramedics and replacing that equipment. We hope everyone will support that budget when we look forward to getting up every day and continuing in this fight. And we're just so thankful to have such good partners with Councilwoman Pickard and Council Executive Pittman and every citizen out there that has had our back. So thank you again. Stay safe, everyone, and stay warm.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Ms. Arrowsmith.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Arrowsmith. I have lived in District 1 since 1991, moving here from Iowa. District 1 and District 2 share one thing is there is no place for a public swimming beach in either district. Luckily, the county has other potential public swimming beaches that we can all share. I'd like to talk about Mayo Beach Park. It is now open on weekends occasionally. The county should open this 7 days a week so we can all enjoy it, especially including our essential workers who work on weekends. The county should abandon its efforts to make the park more difficult to use on weekends through an app developed in secret at the behest of park obstructionists to make you get into the park that way. The other thing I would like to address is funding for public water access improvements.
Hello, ma'am. Are you still there? Excuse me, Miss Anna Smith? Arrowsmith? All right. So by accident, while I was trying to chat with a attendee, I hit clear all hands. So if you could raise your hands again. And while we're doing that, I'll call on Miss Alice Millette. I apologize. Miss Alice Millette, you're allowed to speak.
Hello, thank you, and good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak at this time. Good evening to everyone. I live in the Still Meadows 1 community, and I am the president of the Homeowners Association. And I'm asking this evening if we could get some type of funding. We have a large field in the back of our townhomes, and it has some lighting there, and for some reason we no longer have the lighting, and it's like a play area for the children. It has a basketball court, but of course the children can't enjoy the basketball court after it gets dark. So I was hoping that we could get some type of funding to have these lights on at least maybe up until 10 p.m. so the children can have somewhere to play other than in the courts and in the parking lots. That's it, and thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Willett. Next, we'll return back to Ms. Arrowsmith. You may finish what you were saying, your comments.
About that, my internet connection cut out for a second. I'd like to talk about the amount of money the county uses to fix private community beaches, and ask that money in the future be rerouted to public beaches. The county gave Lock Haven $129,000 to fix its private community beach, while next door, South River Park hasn't had a dime into it in more than 30 years. The county gave Cape St. Clair more than $550,000 to fix its private community beaches, and there are, mature hardwoods falling into the water at the beach at Weinberg Park. That beach has been eroded at least 3.
All right, I think we lost her again. That's okay. Next, may I call upon Ms. Jane Sis, I believe is how you pronounce her name.
Jane Cease.
Sorry about that.
Thank you. That's fine. Good evening, County Executive Pittman and Councilwoman Pickard. My name is Jane Cease, and I'm the Executive Director of the Anne Arundel County Literacy Council. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of our students, tutors, and staff. The Literacy Council provides free literacy, math, GED, ESL, and ASVAB instruction to low-income adults in Glen Burnie and throughout Anne Arundel County. We are asking for your support to continue to implement and grow our programs for some of the most vulnerable people in the county. Our students work with tutors to get a GED, find a better job or a better paying job, qualify for training programs, pass the ASVAB military entrance exam, and enlist in the Army or the Coast Guard, speak and understand English, become citizens, or live independently. All of our services to students are free, and that includes books, laptop loans, tutoring, and assessments. Thanks to our tutoring program, students are empowered to participate in their children's education and in our communities, improving equality fates for the next generation and helping to break the cycle of poverty. Our dedicated staff provide year-round support for hundreds of students and tutors. Traditionally, we don't receive federal or state funding, and instead we rely on community support and smaller grants to operate. As we enter pandemic recovery and the economic fallout continues, we ask for your support. The work we do is a long-term critical intervention, and our tutor-student partnerships are a shining example of community cohesion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cease. Next, we have Mr. Skip Bald.
Hello, thank you, County Executive Pittman, Councilwoman Pickard, and Budget Officer Trumbauer. It's good to be here. My name is Skip Auld. I'm Chief Executive Officer of Anne Arundel County Public Library. I'm testifying this evening in support of the library's budget request, as well as to share the enormous impact that the libraries have continued to have even during this pandemic. As soon as we closed our doors in March, we began offering virtual programs, and so far we've had more than 30,000 people attend. We've also expanded our access to popular home access databases like Ancestry.com and resources for job seekers. We've increased hours for our free online tutoring service, BrainFuse, and more than 36,000 people have gotten homework help there. We're offering Chromebook and Wi-Fi kits for checkout, and we have about 90,000 people who have taken advantage of curbside pickup. Every day we have people who are using our services, such as seniors without computer access signing up for the vaccine. Our staff are handing out food and collecting diapers for needy families. printing documents for teachers, teaching people virtual skills so they can communicate with loved ones, providing advice and books for the grandparent worried about their grandchild's school readiness. Also, this year we are celebrating our 100th anniversary. So that we can become the best library we can over the next 100 years, we need your help. We have important infrastructure and IT needs, and I look forward to beginning the process of planning the Glen Burnie Library. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Auld. Next, we have Mr. Michael Shear.
Hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can, sir.
Well, I'm Mike Schreier. I'm a board member with our county's Fraternal Order of Police. Thank you again to County Executive Pittman and to Councilwoman Pickard for allowing us and other community members the opportunity to speak with you in this forum. We're thankful for the investment that the county, under Mr. Pittman and Ms. Pickard's leadership, has made in our public safety agencies. We appreciate their willingness to listen and their ability to learn. We're fortunate to have such great leaders here in Anne Arundel County. As the county executive mentioned, after many years of neglect, we are finally making strides toward bringing our police department up to where we should be to best serve our citizens and keep our communities safe. That said, there is more work to be done, and we must be careful not to fall into the same patterns of some prior administrations that dug us so deeply into staffing, equipment, and technology holes. Our officers' ability to do their job is dependent upon the support of our citizens and our elected leaders. Proud to work for one of the most professional police agencies in our state, and in fact, our nation. And our citizens and elected leaders should be proud of that fact and know that their investments into our police department mean that our officers are better able to engage in community policing that we know works and that our communities demand. We're urging all of our elected leaders to support our police officers. Actions might speak louder than words, but we need both to help keep our citizens safe, especially in these times of the COVID pandemic and political and social upheaval. Our police officers will continue to be professional, and we appreciate everybody's support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shire. Next, we have Ms. Kristen Sim.
Hello, thank you very much for listening. My name is Kristen Sim, and I live and teach in District 2. I want to thank Mr. Pittman for writing back to my second graders this year as a community helper. And a big thank you to Chief Wolford, who made a video for our class. And thank you to Councilwoman Pickard for constantly advocating for our district. I want to advocate for schools, specifically 3 things. First, thank you and please continue funding the old mill buildings. Second, some schools have a EEE program and others still do not. And all students deserve the opportunity to have enriched educational opportunities like STEM. And right now, some of the county gets them and some of them don't. So it's not really fair to the students. And finally, I would like to advocate to make up the steps for teachers. We recently received our information of what steps we're on, and I've taught for 16 years and I'm on step 11, which is a difference of almost $9,000 every year that I'm losing on my salary and towards retirement. And if I were to move to a different county, it wouldn't be like that. And so it breaks my heart to even need to think about leaving Anne Arundel County because this is where I live and this is where my kids go to. So I'd really love to stay here and just be paid my regular salary. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sim. Next, we have Mr. Lance Collier.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, sir.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Lance Collier. I'm a 15-year-old sophomore and I go to Old Mill High School. I would love to talk about funding for Sawmill Skate Park in Glen Burnie. This park is a great resource for all ages, children to adults. Go to the park any weekend and you'll see families enjoying this park. This park is great for exercise, fresh air, and socialization. I would love to see funding and new surfacing and equipment at Sawmill Skate Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collier. Next, we have Kip. Mr. Kip, would you like to speak?
Dr. Kip Imperato, actually.
I'm sorry.
No worries. So I am a resident of District 2 in Glen Burnie, but I own a veterinary hospital in Baltimore. And so I'm a proud resident in Anne Arundel County because in previous administration we got some really lovely laws adjusted for some of these like feral cats. And to follow up on some of this just humane, compassionate care for some of the animals, I continue to work at the Anne Arundel Animal Care and Control. And there was a previous speaker that had mentioned that there is no staff veterinarian there. And as I work in Baltimore with the veterinarians that work for Baltimore City, I realize that they have 4 staff veterinarians. So I am in agreement that if this is truly Anne Arundel County, the best place for all, as we advertise, I'm not naive to think that the county doesn't have bigger problems than just pets, but I do think that it is important to take care of these animals. And in particular, another great part of Anne Arundel County is the Senior Dog Sanctuary. And one of my idols that passed away in September, Val Lynch, he had a big message about, rescuing these animals, but also rehabilitating these animals so that we can rehome them properly. And it is this rehabilitation that I think that is sorely lacking at the Animal Care and Control because there isn't a staff veterinarian. I feel like we do a good job of bringing the animals in, but the goals have changed. I think in the past that we had, high kill numbers. Now we have a lot of compassionate citizens that want pets. And when they adopt these animals, there is much better success that they will keep these animals if they are healthy. And the best way to keep these animals healthy and get the care they need to get healthy is to have a staff veterinarian. I have no exact idea of exactly what a staff veterinarian would cost, but I do feel like that is somewhere in the range of $50,000 to $60,000 for at least part-time, that these animals can find better permanent homes and receive better health care. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Next, we have Ms. Lisa Ingram.
Hello. Good evening, County Executive Pittman and Councilwoman Pickard. My name is Lisa Ingram, and I'm a resident of District 2, where I live with my husband and my dog and my 4 cats. As you can guess, I'm here tonight to speak for the homeless pets in our county and for Anne Arundel County Animal Care and Control. First, I'd like to thank you both for your support of the shelter during last year's budget cycle. It was an encouraging start, but some unmet needs remain, like new cat cages. I am in my 10th year of volunteering at the county shelter. Most of that time being spent in the cat gallery, assisting with the adoption of formerly stray and owner-surrendered cats. The cats there reside in old plastic cages that are about 2 feet square. Each cube contains an elevated bed, a litter pan, a water bowl, a food dish, and a cat. The space is so cramped that many of the cats lounge in their litter boxes. It's not uncommon to find litter in their food and/or water. Some of these cats will be adopted quickly, while others will spend 24/7 in this little plastic box for weeks or even months at a time. It's sad. In 2018, state minimum standards of care went into effect for dogs and cats in public shelters. But the plastic cages that line the cat room do not meet these standards. I see I'm out of time, so I'm just going to say upgrading these cages will cost approximately $60,000. I'm asking you to please fund this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ingram. Next, we have Ms. Annette McCracken.
Good evening. Thank you, Layla Jones. It was so nice to meet you and talk with you. And me and my husband, and we raised our 3 children here in District 2. We are currently getting road work down here at Georgia Avenue Northwest and sidewalks and everything. And it's a huge endeavor for them, from what I understand. What I'm asking, and thank you so much for letting me have this opportunity too, and Layla let me know that this is an opportunity for our county resident to do. I did not know, but thank you. And but I'm concerned with the trucks, the heavy trucks that go down our street. It is a cut through from Linden, off of B&A to Linden, to Georgia to Crane Highway, and the past couple weeks, the guys are down there, they're halfway through the project and they're down there working. these big 18-wheelers. Now, I've done my due diligence, and that's how I met Layla, and I've talked to Corporal Beju. And then my husband said, well, call the county executive. So thank you, county executive, for showing me too the other programs you guys offer for me to go complain or talk about anyway. But I would just like to ask you to put in some kind of, we have verbiage for these big trucks, and we just need them to stop coming through here. It's going to be, you know, a nice street when it gets done, and we would like to leave it there. And there's little people living here. My house shakes every time a huge, heavy truck comes through here. Thank you for my opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. McCracken. Next, we have Mr. Chip Walsh. Mr. Walsh, are you there? All right, we'll come back to Mr. Walsh. Next, we're going to ask Chris if you'd like to unmute and speak.
Hi, my name is Chris Severa, and I am the president of the Village Mill Community Association. I have been working very closely with Councilwoman Pickard and her administrative assistant, Kristen Etzel, and Nestor Flores from Traffic Engineering. And we have been looking at solutions to the increased traffic from Wade's grant. And I am here tonight to advocate for the traffic circle. This seems to be the best solution to help with the increased traffic that is coming from the new development that has opened at this rather unusual corner of Oakwood and Old Mill. We have talked about a great many things, and they've already put in signage, and they've put in road markings to help to make it safe for both communities. And I would like to have it considered to have the traffic circle put in, which will alleviate all of the problems. I want to thank everybody for their hard work. I know it's been a very challenging year, and Old Mill supports our county and our district and our council people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Next, I'll call on Chip Walsh again.
I have found the unmute button.
I'm glad.
I am a long-term Anne Arundel County resident. I live in District 4, but I didn't have a chance to make that meeting. Wanted to come out for this meeting and talk about water access. I have 3 points I'd like to make. First, Beverly Triton Beach. What has happened to that? It was supposed to be open this summer. Can we please get that going and follow through? We've had the design meetings, we've had the planning reviews, and let's build that thing. And number 2, I want to advocate for a couple of low-hanging fruit, easy access. One at Weinberg Park, where a water access point could be very easily added. Similarly, South Farm Park. Also, it just would take a small effort to clear a path to the water, and we'd have another water access site. And the last thing I want to touch on is I would like to be able to launch into the top of the Severn River. We do have county property at Valentine's Creek. Not sure that's going to be feasible. And if not, I would like for Recreation and Parks to work with either community associations or marinas to form some sort of collaborative arrangement to get water access on the top of the Severn River. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. And this is just a friendly reminder that if you're interested in making a comment, you just have to use the raise hand function. We only have a couple of people left on the list. Next, I'll ask Mr. Stephen Waddy to speak.
Hello, my name is Stephen Waddy. I'm with the Anne Arundel County NAACP, and I just wanted to thank Councilwoman Prickard for her vote condemning the insurrection, the lynch mob that went on. And I understand that this budget season is one that's going to be different from all others, seeing as how the coronavirus and the economic fallout has affected our community in such ways that have been really detrimental for people in her district, because her district has one of the lowest, one of the highest poverty rates in Anne Arundel County. And we need to see within the Anne Arundel County budget a funding for affordable housing. Right now, housing prices are going up and across the board, and we're going to need to see Glen Burnie has the second highest growth rate in the county, and has the lowest median income for homeowners and renters. And so we're going to need to see assistance for those homeowners and renters within this budget, and potential homeowners and potential renters to be able to afford to move within the county. We also need to see affordable housing built outside of Glen Burnie because it does have the highest number of affordable homes because they're the oldest in the county. The NAACP also wants to see funding for the Human Relations Council to investigate complaints of discrimination, plans for each county department to hire more Black people, and the increased funding for body cameras and car dash cams. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Waddy. Next, we have Mr. Michael Maxim.
Hello, my name is Mike Maxim. I'm a resident of District 3. My kids live in District 2. They live in Old Mill. I frequently take them to Sawmill Park. They have a great time. I would like to see continued investment in Sawmill Park, at the skate park especially. It could use some improvements, maybe make it bigger. It's a great thing to have. It's one of the ones that's it's the closest one around here. Otherwise, I've got to take the boys to Baltimore. But I would like to see more investment in Sawmill Park. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maxim. Next, we have Ms. Winifred Hilton. You may unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. I reside in the Still Meadows 1 community for the past 15 years, and the sidewalks are really bad and the parking lot. And that's gotten deteriorated over the past 15 years that I've been here. Is there any way that some fund could go into the budget to have the sidewalks fixed so that we can go walking if we choose to go walking? And we have some of the residents who are disabled who do walk, but with the sidewalks the way how it is, I think they would do a lot more better with their walking. And fixing the parking lot. That's all I have to say. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to say something.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hilton. And our last speaker is Mr. O'Brien Atkinson.
Good evening, Councilwoman Pickard and County Executive Pittman. I am Obie Atkinson. I'm president of the Anne Arundel County Fraternal Order of Police. And I want to thank you both for allowing us here tonight and the opportunity to take part in this budget process. I've attended each of these town halls because, as I tell our citizens and I tell our police officers, you are listening. Much like Congressman Sarbanes, you make yourselves available when we need to discuss important issues, and for that we're very grateful. This town hall is the polar opposite of the political theater we've seen in prior administrations, and we appreciate the support that you've both shown to our police officers, particularly in these difficult times. We're proud to be partners with you both for the betterment of our county. And as I mentioned previously, the last county executive has promised to get our staffing up to 800 officers during the first 4 years of his first term, but actually he reduced the number of police officers in our agency. And this administration has already nearly hit that short-term goal of 800 after just 2 years. We're asking you to continue your support of our police officers in this budget. Our officers are on the front lines of this pandemic, and social upheaval. And we come to work every day committed to providing proud and professional service to our communities. We know that times are hard, and we are dedicated to doing everything we can to keep our community safe, but we can't do it without the support of the citizens and our elected leaders. Mr. County Executive and Councilman Pickard, we are hopeful that you will support us in this process as you've done before and continue the progress to continue the investment that we've started together. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Atkinson. I believe he was our last speaker. So if I can turn it to Mr. Pittman and Councilwoman Pickard.
You ladies first, is that how it works? Or council person first, or how does it work? I'll go last. How about that?
That's fine. That's fine. Mr. County Executive, I really appreciate hearing from both friends and neighbors and people that I have not met yet regarding issues. I am happy to say that nothing really surprised me in the request tonight. My staff and I work really hard to understand the needs in the district, and I think everyone tonight really hit the mark. These are all issues we've been working hard on the council and with this administration to achieve. So I know I have an invitation waiting to go see some of those parks from Ms. Aerosmith and Mr. Robinson. I'm going to be honest, I'm going to wait till it gets a little warmer because it's really cold. But I do look forward to seeing, I enjoy a good paddleboard myself, and so water access is important to me. We will certainly be looking again at enhancing the budget for animal care and control. I look forward to working with the administration to see what can happen there. We do have a lot of work to do still in public safety and in education, both in our human capital and investing in the people that serve our residents in such important ways, but also in making sure that they have the equipment and school buildings that they need. So I'm dedicated to continuing that effort. I really appreciated hearing from the NAACP tonight, Mr. Stephen Waddy, regarding affordable housing. It's an important topic in this county, as housing, the average price of housing, even sold this year, went up 9.72%. Anne Arundel County is not the most affordable place to live in the state or the region. District 2 is one of the more affordable areas, but we also have a very old housing stock. We are committed, I think, this administration and the council, in making sure we provide some innovative ways to bring attainable and affordable housing into the county. It is a very, it's a very challenging topic, but I'm committed to, I've been pushing the administration, and I will continue to really look closely at, there's a lot of cool, innovative things we can be doing countywide to increase our affordable housing stock. So I look forward to working with all our partners on those topics, and I'm gonna leave it at that and that traffic circle, but in Old Mill, we'll get that done one way or another. So I appreciate everybody's time tonight, and I'll hand it back over to Mr. Pittman. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, everybody, for your comments. I'll go through a few of them. I'll start with water access. You all have been at all the town halls so far, I believe. And even though it is cold, I was actually out at South River Farm Park today to take a look around. And I love it when people propose projects that don't cost a whole lot of money, like the kayak launch that you're talking about. And I'm looking forward to working with you all, Rec and Parks, and others to try to make that happen in the short term. Longer term, additional improvements there. Beverly Triton Beach Nature Park is well underway. It's a $5 million project. It was delayed by about 6 months because we wanted to address some environmental concerns there with the plan when we came in. And the shoreline restoration work has begun already and will be done this spring. And they're hiring the contractors, putting out the bids for the work on the parking area and the additional pavilions and trails and all the work that's going to happen there. And so that will certainly have broken ground before the end of the year, hopefully this summer. But the beach and the park are open, so there's a question about how much construction we want to do during the heavy season of the summer, or whether we want to wait until the fall, because residents need to use that beach as they have been, and we do want to continue at the handicap camp that goes on weekdays in the summer at Mayo Beach Park, and we want to continue to keep that park open every single weekend in the summer so that people can use it, and we will do so. Animal care and control, the cat cages. I don't want to say anything official, but we did the dog cages last year, and I think there's a very, very good chance that we'll be able to get that into our budget request to the council. And I have heard in every budget town hall about the need for a staff veterinarian. I thought I was going to be a veterinarian throughout my childhood, and it wasn't until my freshman year of college that I decided that chemistry and physics and calculus were not for me, and I changed directions. But the fact that there's a state law that requires us to have staff veterinary assistants at an animal shelter is something that we're going to look at, and we'll be talking to the folks there about meeting that need. Fire, thank you, Brian, for showing up at these, and some of your brothers and sisters who come to these town halls. Thank you for your service, and we will continue to prioritize the work of the fire department because the needs are great. Police as well. Thank you to our friends there who are also on the front lines in our communities every single day. And we will never neglect the needs of our police department in our budget. And our new police chief, I understand, is a very compelling, she drives a hard bargain. She will be at our budget meetings, and she's hard to say no to. So you have a good advocate there. Still Meadows and Pioneer City. We have residents from both. I was so glad to see that you all were here and advocating for your communities. I was out there about a month ago with a tour with the HOA, and I know exactly what you're talking about with that field that needs the lights fixed, and I know exactly what you're talking about with those sidewalks and some of the roads. I also know exactly what you're talking about when you talk about gun violence and some of the horrific crimes that have gone on, violent crimes in the neighborhoods in the last 6 months or so. And I can assure you that our administration is working with some community leaders as we speak to address some needs there and get at some of the things in the community and with youth that will give folks things to do other than join gangs and participate in that kind of activity. So we're with you there. Literacy Council, glad to hear from you again this year. We'll be in touch. Libraries are always there. There are community centers really in Anne Arundel County, the closest thing we have. And if you haven't been to a library lately, as soon as things get reopened, please do. It's amazing all the services that they're providing in our communities, and we have every intention of continuing with the capital project programs there, including for Glen Burnie, and funding their work for the community. We had only one teacher. The teachers haven't been as vocal this year, but we're always thinking about you, and your needs are great, and particularly on the back steps. I really want to get that done before I leave office. I can guarantee you that. So we're going to try. Affordable housing. We did 2 bills already through the council, workforce housing and fair housing bills. And there are 2 more requiring developers to set aside a certain percentage of their units of new construction, which isn't a big amount, unfortunately, when that gets done, but it's important as affordable. But we do have a bill in the General Assembly to give Anne Arundel County the authority to start a housing trust fund to pay for some of the affordable housing programs in our county through a real estate transfer tax on properties over $1 million when they are sold. A tool that's been used in other counties, and I hope we can get that bill passed so that we can do that in Anne Arundel and help out with that. And finally, Sawmill Skate Park. I've noticed when I go up there with my kids that there are usually more people at the skate park than there are on the tennis courts or just about anywhere else. And it's heavily used. It's the only one we've got in the county. And I'm really glad to hear some of the young folks advocating for improvements to that skate park. And you already know how Councilwoman Pickard feels about that. It was, you played it well, Councilwoman, when you introduced some of these issues, and then you had your constituents advocating for them. I know it was all planned to convince me that these were priorities.
To come, they just showed up.
Right, and that's how it should work. So thank you, everybody. I truly believe that District 2 has been not served as well in some past years in budget priorities as some other districts, and we want to make up for that and support you guys. So thank you for joining us tonight. And if you don't like what you see when the budget comes out, go to the council's hearings, budget hearings that will be, I think there are 2, when you can advocate once again based on what you see in the budget that we submit to the council. So lots of opportunities to engage, and we will be as transparent as we possibly can throughout the process. Thanks, everybody. Good evening.